fathers who have led us in a spiritual and prayerful to the Eucharistic celebration. A heartfelt thanks to Brother Ignatius, who challenged us to be shaped as Montfortians of Asia in the spirit of Beatitudes. My heartfelt thanks goes to the Celestial Choir of Montfortians who have led us to the spirit of prayer, a prayer that will shape us with the zeal of Montfort. May I invite Brother Charity to announce few announcements for the day.
Good morning. We have come to the final day. So before we depart from here in the afternoon, the same announcement which I made yesterday, a gentle reminder to all the participants, those who are staying in the obese hotel rooms, either after breakfast or after tea, you could hand over the bags to the front office. The receptionists are there. They said they will take care. In case if you are not able to put in the clock room, if you hand over to them, they will take care of your luggage. A tag will be provided. You could put your name. Then, for the departure in the afternoon, those who are requested for the accommodation, all the brothers from Trichy province who have requested me, I have the names. You will be going to Satyodayam, Jesuit Provincial House at Tarnaka. Then brothers from Delhi and Aircraft who have requested, they will be put up in St. Anne's Generate, Nacharam. And the brothers who have requested to go to Boys Town, I think you will have to go up to Uppal. Maybe from there, some arrangements will be made for you to reach to Boys Town. And those who are supposed to go to the provincial house, whoever have requested, you will be all taken to provincial house. So when you go to these venues, leave your luggage there, and from there you proceed to Little Frog Junior College for the evening civic function. Sisters and the fathers, they will be leaving this night safe after the program. So your buses will go directly to Little Frog Junior College, and after the function, again a bus will be organized for you to reach to the station.
And for those who are leaving early morning towards railway station, or all the railway stations are close by the city itself. So we have there is a common transport, but let you not depend on that, because your timings are different. So if you are able to get in a cab or an auto which is very close to the railway station, our coordinators will be there. As you had come here, they will help you out to get in a cab or auto. So make yourself free to reach the places, the stations as you wish, as your time proposed. However, for airport, other possibilities we will be able to make it in the morning, early morning towards time. And those who, all of us will be checking out from Leonia, and even if your stays tomorrow evening is your transport, your travel, but nobody will be staying here in Leonia. Other arrangements of brothers already have informed you.
Yesterday we had announced that we would have the group photo of the associates after Mass. It's already quite late. We will have it after the first session. Thank you.
Sister Stella Malthusar to present on the paper Feminist Reading of the Life and Mission of Montfort. Sister Stella is a member of the Franciscan Missionaries of Mary. She holds masters in sociology and in theology. She has been involved in the empowerment of women in India at the national level, as well as working with Caritas Switzerland, engaged in projects for community development with special focus on human rights, anti-trafficking and empowerment of women through self-help groups, especially in Delhi and Bihar. Her expertise are in the field of animating groups for social transformation and leadership. She has participated and presented papers in several international conferences. Presently, she is the superior and correspondent of Nazareth and Bethlehem schools in Ooty in the New Greece. Welcome you, sister.
Good morning, dear brothers and sisters.
Good morning.
It's such a pleasure to be with you on this occasion of the Tercentenary of Saint Montfort, a great personality whom I came to know closely while I was preparing this paper. Thanks to our brothers in Kunur, St. Anthony's, who supplied me with some books and also had some discussions with them. Once there was a professor of psychology who defined what is psychology. He said, psychology is the scientific study of the behavior of man. And there was Sister Doris sitting in the front row. She raised an objection. She said, you say psychology is the scientific study of the behavior of man. What about woman? So Professor redefined his statement. He said, psychology is the scientific study of the behavior of man embracing woman. This morning, we would like to explore this meaning of being embraced, of being in inclusive relationship, of being human together as equals in the presence of God. A journey into the heart of a founder, Saint Louis de Marie de Montfort. This is a time of grace and divine blessings for the great banyan tree, the Montfort family. It is the manifestation of the Lord, a new epiphany. It is a time of transfiguration, witnessed by the three apostles, a new Pentecost among the family of Montfortarians. Montfort already desired the reign of God. He was an excellent theologist, philosopher, who took forward his mission along with enthusiastic youngsters who collaborated with him with utmost care. His quest for God in contemplation, his communion with the Trinity and Mother Mary are the most amazing ways in which he achieved magnificent results during his limited period of life. An apostolic missionary, as affirmed by Pope Clement XI, affired with a zeal for God and passion for his mission. His conviction about Mother Mary as the surest way to Jesus creates great resonance in the hearts of the Catholic Church at a time when Protestant Reformation was gaining ground in some parts of Europe. Montfort was aware of the rise of women thinkers in the Middle Ages. Empower communities and transform society to bring about sustainable development based on respect for human rights, empower women and ensure every person, woman, man, girl and boy, enabling them to live a life of dignity in the family and in the nation. Building feelings of confidence and social tolerance is the fundamental basis for the whole culture of human rights. In the Old Testament, Puah and Ziphrah, the Hebrew midwives, dared to obey the voice of God and their conscience and took steps to disobey the order of the king. Esther pleaded for the people and saved them from being massacred. Judith did not spare the evil king. Deborah, the prophetess, was able to counsel and bring people closer to Yahweh. And now, the voices of women are heard everywhere in the world. It is said that right from 5th century onwards, women began to raise their voice of protest. I just want to give two examples. One, Wangari Maathai, the Nobel laureate from Kenya, who managed to gather 30 million women in some of the African countries and planted 5 lakh trees and enabled waters to run through in the dry rivers. When she was a child, she used to go with her father to swim in the river and play with the little fishes that were running. When she grew up, she noticed that the rivers are running dry, and then she began to take action. And today, the rivers are running with streaming water, and the fish has come back. The second example I would like to give is Vandana Shiva. Could we have the clipping? Vandana Shiva, who has also received several awards and an internationally well-known person, staying alive and many other books that she has written. She fought the case in the international court against patenting of neem trees, basmati rice and the like. She has developed 16 different states of India seed banks, especially saving the rare seeds which are slowly disappearing from the nutritious intake of our people, which were traditionally part of our diet. So we shall just look at this, her perspective on how she sees Monsanto trying to monopolize and eliminate people's local cultures.
Behind our food to life. The myth of genetic engineering that's been one is to make seeds more resilient to herbicides, which means you get to spread more Roundup, you get to spread more glyphosate, and you get to spread more poison. Not a very desirable trait in farming systems, especially since what Monsanto will call weeds are actually alternative sources of food. For example, in India, Monsanto had ads selling Roundup with weeds around a woman's hands saying, "Liberate yourself." But what Monsanto calls weeds is food for the cattle, it's greens for the family, it's medicinal plants. And the spraying of Roundup is like an ecocide of the planet, destroying diversity. The other brand of genetic engineering is Bt toxin crops. You take a genetically engineered toxin from a bacteria called Bacillus thuringiensis, which is why Bt, put it into the plant, and now this toxin is a ready-made toxin, different from the bacteria where it becomes a toxin in the gut of particular insects and therefore only targets the caterpillars. This ready-made toxin now starts to affect butterflies, and these are Cornell studies showed that butterflies fed with pollen from Bt corn had a much higher level of mortality. We've just done a recent study that's showing that soils with Bt cotton have lost nearly 30% of the soil microorganisms within 3 years of cultivation. There are reports in India of cattle dying after grazing on Bt cotton fields because after all it's a toxin. And this is happening to animals and bees. What's going to happen to human beings with a lifetime of feeding these toxic foods? There's also talk about producing more nutrition. A golden rice is talked about a lot. Well, golden rice has 34 micrograms of vitamin A equivalent. Real sources of vitamin A are greens. For example, the coriander leaf that we use in our curries, or the curry leaf, they have 1,400 micrograms. So a 70-fold reduction in vitamin A is sold as an increased availability of vitamin A. These are illusions that are being marketed in order for people to hand over the power to decide what we eat to a handful of corporations. This is not being done to improve the food supply or improve nutrition. It's being done to control food, because without genetic engineering, companies could not have patented seed. A seed patent means the right to exclude anyone from making, using, saving, developing the patented product. If it's a machine, it doesn't matter. If it's an aeroplane, it doesn't matter. Boeing makes aeroplane, a local citizen does not. But when it comes to seed, if Monsanto gets a patent right to seed, then a farmer saving seed is treated like a thief, an intellectual property thief. A farmer whose field is contaminated by a genetically engineered seed that Monsanto has sold through pollination or wind, that farmer who is a victim of pollution is also treated like a thief, because when seed becomes intellectual property, the existence of the genetically engineered traits anywhere without the patent holder's permission is treated like theft. This is how Percy Spicer in Canada was sued $200,000. 1,500 farmers of the United States have been sued by Monsanto after Monsanto contaminated their crops. This is putting the principle of the polluter pays into a principle of the polluter gets paid. So Monsanto has control over the seed through patents, and then control over the rest of the food through contamination. It's a very perverse situation. It has to change. It's not sustainable, it's unjust, it's immoral, and the fact that they got away with it for 20 years should be no reason why they should get away with it for the next 20 years. Thank you.
So this dynamism of a keen awareness of what is happening within oneself, what is happening in our society, and taking action to get actively involved, this is what I see in the life of Saint Montfort. His spiritual quest, a pilgrim in search of the divine. His spiritual and apostolic energy came from his ardent love for the Lord through Mother Mary. His intense communion with God and divine wisdom gave him the new impetus to share his vision with a group of people with whom he would launch his lifeboat into unknown and uncharted territories. For the glory of God, he was willing to undergo all sorts of trials and tribulations. Yet, he was keenly developing the spiritual life, missionary life, community life, and the institutions he developed, such as the hospital, schools for the poor, etc. His heart was enkindled with divine fire to evangelize and preach the word of God at all times, tirelessly, moving from place to place. He nourished his spirituality through the fervent practice of the Holy Rosary. He learned the secrets and the hidden power of Mary, the Mother of God, through whom divine wisdom is continually made manifest. As Jesus came to the world through Mary, we too will go to Jesus through Mary. Yet, in a deeply contemplative experience, the Rosary will be the means of attaining perfection in Christ. As Thomas Aquinas affirmed, to contemplate and to share the fruits of contemplation. He renewed his confidence and hope in God, the divine wisdom. The core of his spirituality begins with the Incarnation. Mary at the Annunciation. Around Mary, the Incarnation, the Resurrection, and the Mission are all three aspects combined into that one act when the Archangel Gabriel comes to announce to Mary, "Hail Mary, full of grace. Rejoice, you have found favor with God." Every word is so pregnant with meaning. If only every day we could greet each other. Hail. I think the word hello perhaps has connection to this. Hello, full of grace, you are filled with God. God has favored you. Rejoice. This is the core of his spirituality. In an unfamiliar village, which is Nazareth, a lowly woman named Mary, she represents receptivity activated by the Spirit from the bottom of her inadequacy, the unaware, the last of the society. It is a contrast between weakness and power. In this weak woman, God chooses to pour His love, abundance of power, His favors. Power comes to its full strength in weakness. When I am weak, then I am strong, says St. Paul. It is like creation emerging out of nothing, of God's power and wisdom manifested in the weakness and folly of the cross. The divine incarnation in the lowliness of the handmaid. It continues in the power of the Spirit at work in the weak. Our source of strength, our energy and our creativity are found in the cross of Christ. The messianic joy, rejoice most favored, the Lord is with you. Joy is a characteristic of the Christian community. Rejoice, you have received divine favor in plenitude. The Lord is with you. This joy fills Mary. It fills the shepherds. It is the joy of the good news, joy of the early church, joy of every man and woman whom Montfort family meets and shares the good news. So we continue in us, we continue today and tomorrow this great message of Saint Gabriel. The Lord is with you. Rejoice. You have found favor with God. In the presence of God, you have new life. Birth announcements. Sarah in Genesis 16:11, Samson's mother in Judges 13:2-3, Elizabeth in Luke 1:7-13, steering motherhood as gift of God's grace. God is able to accomplish far more than all we ask or imagine by the power at work within us. It is God who is acting. We are attuned to God and we place our being in the hands of God. The power of the Most High that will bring the Son of God to the world in her womb. Mary offers her womb to God. Acts 1:8 says, you will receive the power of the Holy Spirit coming down upon you, and you shall be my witnesses. So the power that came in the womb of Mary, the power that came in and through Jesus on the cross, is the same power that came at Pentecost. It is the same power that continues to flow in every one of the missionaries' action today. The witnesses continue. The mystery once began in Mary's womb. Mary is thus leading the way to the witnessing community, and this community carries on the grace and the task which was once entrusted to the mother of the Savior. The power of His resurrection is already anticipated in Mary, as it will be carried on in the witnesses of the disciples. Montfort renewed his confidence and hope in God in divine wisdom. Let us build the Calvary in our hearts. I could not understand the depth of this person's spirituality when he had labored with I don't know how many thousands of people together to build up this edifice, and he was asked to just demolish it down. And he said so calmly, I'm sure he was perturbed perhaps, but he did not fight back. That was the core of feminine value in him. To take up every disappointment with courage and grace and say, let us build this Calvary in our hearts. I think he was a very deeply feminist personality. Montfort's struggles, his rejections, his disappointments, he practiced a spirituality of disinterested love. Nishkam karma. He was misunderstood. He stirred the consciousness of others. He tried to place the cross before his actions. drew inspiration for his mission. Challenges faced by him and his courageous determination to bring about change, gathering women to say the rosary together. I found while reading The Secrets of Mary, there are beautiful steps he has devised to instruct the people how to say the rosary. Many of these steps we use in organizing several groups in the villages. So, already 300 years ago, Montfort has already forethought how methods of organizing people could be envisioned. And if systematically it was taken, Montfortian family would have really stood up in the forefront of social and collective organization of people. I'm sure you are doing it, I suppose. The man in devotion, the divine feminine manifests as strategic moments. Jesus, the wisdom of the Father, has been addressed as the wisdom, the word, the logos that came among us. Mother and mistress of wisdom, Mary did not step into the realm of Christ is coming, wisdom is the end of all humanity. Jesus, our Savior, true God and true man, must be the ultimate end of all devotion. Montfort makes a clear shift in his thinking about the condition of man, which was negative after the fall, and the positive reality of regaining everything abundantly in Christ. Mission to his sons and daughters. Of his missionaries, he writes that he will be transformed into an assembly of predestined men, a flock of peaceful sheep, a flight of pure doves and royal eagles, a herd of nimble deer and bold lions capable of renewing the face of the earth. The combination of these two realities, the masculine and the feminine, the strong and the compassionate, it's so clear in his perception, in his spirituality. So he was a very well-balanced, well-integrated personality. As the lion and the lamb will lie together, the child will place its hand into the holes of the viper. The current status of women, we need to understand. One cannot understand the present without knowing the past. The past holds the key to the present situation. Witch hunting in Europe, which is said between 9th and 18th century in Europe, 30 million women were burnt as witches or killed as witches. If you read the book on Beyond God the Father, it is so very vividly explained. Sati, the burning of a woman in the funeral pyre of her husband in India. Foot binding in some of the East Asian countries, where a child from the age of 5, 6, 3 or 4 onwards, her feet is bound, bent and bound, so that when she grows up, her feet will remain very small and very tender looking. So rich men will desire to marry women whose feet are bound. It's an indirect way of controlling a woman's movement. In the African countries, we have female genital mutilation, which is still being continued in some areas, and the United Nations is battling to stop this evil practice. In the northern belt of India, there are women who are forced to wear leather belts when the husband is away from home. And it is the law, the key is kept with the mother-in-law when this woman needs to go for her personal needs. Such kind of atrocious practices have made women feel degraded, demystified, to think negatively of her own self. Leo Tolstoy was once asked about a piece of iron, what would be its use? And he said, it depends on how it is molded. How did our society mold women? How did our cultures mold women? How did our religions mold women? Women are continually being subjugated by modern manipulation by fundamentalists. Rashtriya Sevika Samiti, the women's wing of the RSS fundamentalist group, has taken 31 tribal children from the age of 5 onwards to Gujarat. This is happening now. And the Hindutva ideology is being indoctrinated into this women. Khuraibi, a 32-year-old tribal woman from the Bodo community, trafficked these 31 children, and this woman who has already been indoctrinated, she is now advocating that Hinduism is their religion and they should stand up for the ideals of Hinduism, fundamentalist Hinduism. And this lady has been admonished not to get married, so she will be celibate and she will propagate Hindu religion. She vehemently points out that she has come in touch with her original roots, and the Bodo people are fooled by the Christians who are converting the Bodo and making missionaries of Bodo girls to destroy their cultural roots. Some of the Bodos are killed by the Muslims. The RSS has established about 52,000 tribal schools in 2013. There are 112 RSS-related fundamentalist groups working on this agenda. The Outlook magazine has noted of these facts. Rape and kill culture is on the rise. Patriarchy still has a stranglehold on women. Barbaric acts of caste atrocities, honor killing, forceful marriages are still strongly prevalent in Indian culture. After the murder, the justification by questioning the morality of the woman is the meanest way patriarchy is playing its card today. The value of life seems to be at the edge. Much of the younger generation is another aspect of younger generation absorbed in the IT world, media culture. This is a lonely, isolated generation, a selfie world where internet and the Facebook and the rest are occupying their time. Voluntarism is dwindling. Where is voluntarism to come out to serve humanity? They seem to retreat into silence and inaction rather than take an open stand for the victims of human rights, child abuse and exploitation. Few march for peace and against racism and war. Where indeed are the cries of those who believe in the love of neighbor and the service to the oppressed and exploited poor? Feminization of poverty. The growth in the world has a paradox. The rich have grown richer and the poor have become poorer. Even the conservative statistics of the government are enough to prove that the poor are at the losing end. There is gain at the top and gloom at the bottom. Women consider the dust of the dust, the scum of society. Where are the women in the rising stardom of India? But today we have reason to rejoice, at least in the Olympics, 2 women have at least saved the name of India. Biology, and especially for Andhra Pradesh, I am so happy Sindhu comes from here, Telangana and Andhra together. Biology as destiny. Denied rights to education, professional qualification, suffrage, property rights, adoption, less pay for equal work, denied equality in all religions. Gender division of labor traditionally forced women into culturally dictated practices which was imposed with divine sanction and patriarchal imposition. The reproductive role of women, caring and nurturing children and elders, did not get paid while men brought remuneration. This basic anomaly was brought to light by women who established the fact that differentiating gender needs, access and control over resources are essential to understand the subordinate status of women, as well as this division of labor to change. Simon de Beauvoir, 1908, in her book The Second Sex, well defined purity pollution laws. I would like to come to Simon de Beauvoir later. Purity pollution laws, we know in the book of Leviticus, chapter 15, verse 1 to 15, if you read, all the purity pollution laws are there. But there was an incident that took place last year in Here is in Kerala, Sabarimala, where the pilgrims go, women are forbidden to go. So women in the age of menstruation are not permitted to enter this temple because she will pollute the date. And there was a big discussion about it. Quite a few women's groups took up the cause, and it was going on in the media for quite some time. And then one day, one of the Devasam priest, he said, if we have a machine that will detect which woman is in menstrual period at that point, at that time, then we can forbid her not to enter, but other women can enter. This infuriated and made a big blow among women, and they opened a Facebook page, Happy to Bleed. And immediately there were thousands of people who liked it and said, yes, we are happy to bleed. Why do you consider us impure? What makes us impure? It is a sign that a woman is fecund. She is ready for life. She is generative. She is reflecting the face of God to bring life into this earth. Do you consider this as polluting? So who dictated these terms to women? Commoditization of women. By business houses through media, beauty pageants, Miss World contests, purely for increasing their economic profit. They manipulate the image of womanhood. Trafficking, forceful marriage, and sale to brothel houses, mail order brides. These are still on the rise. Feminism then and now. Charles Fourier, a French economist, more than 200 years ago, he was the one who coined the word feminism. He took the word femina and he said feminism. He added an ideology to this feminist understanding, and feminist, feminine, feminism, feminist. So, feminist is the one who is conscious of her ability and her weakness, who is conscious of what society is doing to her, and who gets involved in action to change the situation. So these are the two key areas in this word feminism. And he said, every woman who is supporting life, she is nurturing children, bringing up husbands, elders she is caring for, why should she be counted as somebody low, as a second-class citizen? There is nothing second-class about a woman. And therefore he said, feminists must stand up together to change this. This cannot be accepted in society anymore. So that is how the ideology of feminism, which was already in vogue, it got much more codified, and women began to think of how to counter this action of subjugating women throughout history and culture. It's a proven fact that women are not in any way less in their intellectual, economic, social, political, and cultural spheres than men. The first woman who wrote a book on the condition of women is Christiane de Pizan. She was born in 1365 and died in 1430. An Italian-born thinker, daughter of an astrologer. A great woman, she was invited by the King Charles to France to participate in big discussions about the importance of women in society. And this woman was the one who wrote the first book. She listened to her own experience of being a woman and questioned the deeply ingrained opinions about women's inferiority. She was exceptional in the sense that she had the privilege and attracted the audience in the court of the palace in France. As a self-educated woman, she raised the question, were women more prone to vice and evil than were men? Another common question was, were the female descendants of Eve, the evil tempters of Adam, capable of thinking clearly and acting ethically? The common response was no. Pizan pondered over these questions and arguments of many highly regarded male experts who claimed that women by nature were inferior in every way to men. After thinking intensely about these matters and praying for divine guidance, she decided to trust herself over male authorities. She wrote, "I began to examine my character and conduct as a natural woman. And similarly, I considered other women whose company I frequently kept, princesses, great ladies, women of the middle and lower classes." The book of the City of Ladies, this is the book she wrote, was published in 1405, before Montfort was born. She is known to be the first woman who participated in debates about women. Her book presents 4 key areas of concern long before the word feminism was coined. First one, she gave credence to her own experience and other women rather than uncritically accepting the opinion of men about women. Second, she critically analyzed attitudes about women and could not accept negative opinions about them. Third, she looked into the usable past, into stories and traditions that gave her a basis for envisioning new ways of being woman. Fourth, Pizan's search brought new understanding that began the end of men defining women. Pizan was a prolific writer. She participated in literary and philosophical debates about women. There is not the slightest doubt that women belong to the people of God and the human race as much as men, and are not another species or dissimilar race. Women are human beings. How can humanity accept the subjugation of women as a deficient, subordinate or second-class citizen? We also have other examples of Hildegard of Bingen, Catherine of Siena, Joan of Arc, Teresa of Avila, many other very interesting women who have made their valuable contribution to our society. Simon de Beauvoir, born in 1908, The Second Sex, the book she wrote, is considered a classic in feminism, where she brought about the reality and the way in which women are being perceived in our society, and the way women need to prove their being, that there is no way in any way they are inferior or second class to women. Modern Western feminist history is split into 3 time periods or waves. The first wave feminism, second wave feminism, third wave feminism. The first wave feminism that began over 200 years ago, the very first meeting that was held at Seneca Fall in 1849, where women came from all over the world, it is said, and they held a conference in New York. And there they began to list down why is our society considering women in a secondary status way. How can women stand up and claim our right that we are human, that we are in no way less than others. So first wave feminism of the 19th century and early 20th century focused on overturning legal inequalities, particularly women's suffrage. Second wave feminism from 1960 to failures. Although the waves construct has been commonly used to describe the history of feminism, the concept has also been criticized for ignoring and erasing the history between the waves, by choosing to focus solely on a few famous figures and popular events. But what is key in the contribution that these waves made, one is liberal feminism, where top class women in Europe and America who focused on equality of rights with men in education, in employment, in suffrage, in adoption, in equality of wages, in all levels they claimed for equality. The question, the negative part of this movement was that the lower class women, the working class, the bottom level of layer of women did not participate in this debate. Therefore, with whom will they claim their equality? So that was a drawback in this. The second part was the socialist feminism, where women took up the ideology of socialism and they went about in collaboration with men for structural change when socialist ideology was strong. And one of their contribution was that women in their prenatal and postnatal period are in need of support and help, care. At this time, the government should give women with remuneration, they should be given leave to care for the young children. And they were the first ones who obtained this. Today it has come as a norm for in all countries. The third one was this radical feminism, which stood for by women, for women and women alone, which categorically negated men, which most of us do not pledge allegiance to. But I would like to give one example of what happened in Europe about a few years ago. There was a young girl who was getting married. They were already in the wedding hall. So the bride, groom came, his family and everybody. The wedding was over. And at the end of the ceremony, they were about to go home. So the boy's family said, you have to give the dowry here itself, otherwise you don't take the bride home. So her father, who brought the money actually, he was coming by an auto. In all his preoccupation, he left the bag in the auto rickshaw and he came to the hall without bringing the bag. And the auto rickshaw went back. Then he was so desperately searching, where is the bag? What happened to the bag? And he was begging with this boy's family, I'm very sorry, I brought the money, I don't know where I have misplaced it. I will definitely pay you back. You take my daughter home, I will give you back the money. They said, no, it cannot happen. You have to pay the money now. While they were arguing like this, the auto rickshaw man saw this packet lying in the auto. He brought the auto back and he brought the packet and gave it to this man and said, sir, you forgot and you left this in my auto. When this girl saw this, she simply removed her tali from her neck and she threw it in front of the man, the person who tied the tali. She said, I'm sorry, you did not marry me, you married the money my father would give. I don't want to come with you. And she said, if that auto rickshaw man is not married, I am willing to marry this man. And the marriage took place. So this is a real incident of a girl who can stand up. If women were given the option, what decisions would they take? Will they allow patriarchal stranglehold to hold on to women? The concept of Ardhanarishwar in Indian understanding. Ardhanarishwar is a very beautiful concept which speaks of the male-female aspects in the human. The left side of the brain is male, the right side of the brain is, the left side is female and the right side is male. A happy combination of these two, well integrated together, forms a healthy personality. When this is not properly developed, and then maldevelopment takes place, and then there is tendency to oppress on the other side. But this Shiva concept is a very beautiful thing, which when I was in college, our Tamil Miss told us this myth. When Shiva was seated in Kailash for his tapas, Parvati was by his side. The devotee came and worshipped him, and he went round the deity of Shiva 3 times and he went. Second day he came, Parvati was very angry. She told him, your devotee didn't even recognize me. She left me out and he went around you. So Shiva said, you sit very close to me, don't leave any space. So the second day the devotee came, he prayed and he asked for a boon. What was the boon? Make me a little beetle. So God granted him the boon. The beetle went round the head of Shiva and he went home. Parvati was infuriated. She said, what is this? And you are sitting like a dumb man here. Yesterday I told you. So next morning when the devotee came, there were no distinction. They were exactly half male and half female. So this only shows, it's more than 2,000 or 3,000 year old myth, but it shows a debate that has taken place at that point in time about the equality, equal partnership of man and woman in the Godhead himself. So, what are the challenges we pose today? One of the questions that I have to Montfortians, the spirituality of warfare to fix the enemies. And in a country that is, in a world that is torn apart through religious fundamentalism, through global economic politics and political impacted by dominant colonial cultures, can we are called to reframe the language of war the need to become participants and partners in a common cause. Montfort elicits an urgency to respond positively to the mission of bringing the reign of God. Yet the image of the arrow to become the nine kings for eternity, contempt of the world, or symbolic languages whose meaning we find difficult to understand in today's context. Women who have lived through violence, rape, wife battery, abuse, inhuman, unjust treatment find it difficult to feel resonance with these images. How do we re-image these symbolisms in our spirituality? Second, the place given to Mary as the epitome of all blessings does not reflect a concern for the suffering women of his time. Probably what he was aspiring to, getting women together, praying with them, it was a means of enabling women to come out of their domestic confines, staying within their homes, to give a cause, a greater cause than just being wives in the home. He brought them out, and the collaboration that he elicited is a tremendous experience of giving a missionary trust to women. I see that as a very new contribution that Montfort made already 300 years ago. But today, when female genital mutilation and sati and the atrocities that are being, sexual molestation of a girl child, trafficking of women who have been denied of their rights, what is our response to these issues? Do we respond to these causes in a vibrant manner? Wisdom being termed as masculine and feminine. It's very interesting. He calls Jesus as wisdom, Mother Mary as wisdom, the masculine aspect as well as the feminine aspect. Both he interchangeably uses, which is a very, very healthy combination. I feel such a spirituality should flourish in the Catholic Church. Why is the Church afraid of calling wisdom the woman? The philosopher Pythagoras, who invented the word philosophy, Philo and Sophia. Sophia was the woman, and the logos that was in vogue. So Sophia and logos were both revered concepts, and gradually in the Church, how did this word Sophia die out? It's because of the connotation of the goddess worship that was connected to Sophia. Was that the reason, or was there any other reason? Feminist theology, by its hermeneutic principle of remembrance, is claiming the imagery of Sophia, woman wisdom, God as divine mother wisdom, and as a triune divine community. Women wisdom empowers women just as she empowered Jesus. For the first century Christians, Jesus was the prophet of women wisdom, challenging the people he encountered to new understanding of God. This is what Elizabeth Schussler-Fiorenza says. A feminist reconstruction of Christian origins. Montfort had gained great insight into the reality of Sophia in the life of Jesus and had mastered the understanding of Jesus as Sophia. Montfort acknowledged Sophia as feminine power in Jesus. This understanding makes us claim Montfort as a feminist. Today, is the Montfort family ready to take up the cause of gender justice, of equality for women? It's a very interesting question for us to answer. Are we ready to take up the cause of women? Pope Paul VI, in his closing message of Vatican II, he said, "You women have always had as your Lord the protection of the home, the love of beginnings, and an understanding of cradles. You are present in the mystery of a life beginning. You offer consolation in the departure of death. Our technology runs the risk of becoming inhuman. Reconcile men with life, and above all, we beseech you, watch carefully over the future of our race. Hold back the hand of man, who in a moment of folly might attempt to destroy human civilization." Women must move from being imitators to become innovators. Women must move from being merely followers to become leaders in our world. Women's spirituality has a fivefold integration, a fivefold understanding of our very life and mission. The first one is developing a positive understanding of one's own self, valuing our body as sacred, the body as gift of God. God is the one who has given this as a vehicle to experience God's very divine revelation within us. This body as an Indian understanding which has the Annamaya, Pranamaya, Manomaya, Vijnanamaya and Anandamaya. The fivefold integration of that self must be positively understood by every woman and man, and we need to relate to this body in a very, very positive manner. Second one, a positive relationship to God. Without a positive relationship to self, it's not healthy way, we cannot relate with God in a healthy manner. Therefore, set right first, how do I understand my very self? And the second aspect of our relationship to God, which takes into account the God of the Exodus, who commanded Moses, go to Pharaoh and tell him to set my people free. To set free the oppressed, to participate in the mission of God, to be a prophet in today's world, to be like Jesus, to proclaim the good news to every nook and corner of the marginalized sections of our world, to women, to children, to everyone who is marginalized. That is the way of positively relating to God. It is not merely following the ritual religious practice, but being a prophet, participating in the mission of Montfort, so alive and vibrant, walking for kilometers long, giving away all his possessions. What a tremendous personality. Absolutely inspiring. Third aspect of self-integration of the spirituality, relationship to my neighbor. As Cain and Abel had a fight, am I my brother's keeper? We are our brothers and sisters' keepers. The Good Samaritan who carried the man on his shoulder, merciful and compassionate like the Father, the year of mercy. We have to care for our neighbors. When a woman is ill-treated, when a woman is beaten to death, how do we respond? I can give you one example in my working. In Kilampadi area, in Europe, I was working, and there was in a village, the people, it was a very remote village in the interior area, and I was organizing the women's groups in this surrounding. In the nights we used to have meetings, but I was staying in Coimbatore, I was working with the Diocese of Coimbatore. And one day the women decided, the men and women, they come to the well, take the water, they pour and they take bath, and then when back, the water goes back into the well again. So the dirty water is flowing back, children are drinking this water, they are getting scabies, they are getting stomach upset. So the women themselves said, sister, if we stop taking bath at this well, we would reduce so much of disease for our children. And so they decided, I was not there, I finished the meeting and I went on. They wrote on the paper, no one will take bath here. And they stuck on the well. So for about 4 or 5 days, they kept quiet. Then after about 5-6 days, one young man came and he said, who are these women to tell us we cannot take bath here? And he started taking bath as usual. So the leader of the association, she came and asked him, we have written here, no, it is only for the sake of our children, for our health, for our sanitation, we are telling you. Why are you disobeying this? When they both began to have an argument, his family people joined him, her other women joined this woman. There was a big fight between the two groups. And the village was almost divided into two. And then they called me, sister, please come, we are in a terrible trouble, we don't know how to handle this. When this woman leader went back to the house, the husband beat her. You are the one who triggered this problem in the village. So she took her clothes and she went to her mother's house. She said, I did what was right. I have not done anything wrong. So that was the courage of this woman. So then I had to come. When I came back to this village, I wanted to meet these two different groups of people, how to settle this problem without creating conflict. So I called one group, spoke to them, then I told them, don't go to sleep, you wait till I call the other group and speak. You have to create peace in the village. Then I called the second group, spoke, and finally it was about 12 o'clock when both the groups came together. We sat and began to stop and talk. At one point again they stood up. Who are these women to tell us that we cannot take bath? Or have they told us at any time what we have to do? Why are they telling us now? So all through life and history, women obeyed what men said. But one is when women want to say something, men cannot accept it. And then I said, if you are going to beat anybody, you beat me first. I am the one who came here to organize the women. You don't have to fight between each other. You drink the dirty water and let your children or you get sick. But I want peace in the village. So we will stop this discussion here and we go home. Then the men began to think together. And they said, we will build 2 walls and build tanks in both sides. We will plant some coconut trees and banana trees. People will draw the water out from the well and they will take part in the sides. This was the decision arrived at about 2 o'clock in the morning. And the women at that time, they went to their home, made black coffee and brought, served the village. For me, it was an experience of the Eucharist. How we can be peace builders, we can elicit from women the compassion that lies hidden in them. So, we have to take a new stand. We have to work with people to transform our world. Rosemary Radford Ruther speaks about the vision that women have for a new society. We seek a society that affirms the value of democratic participation, of equal value of all persons, as the basis of their civil equality and their equal access to educational and work opportunities of a society. But more, we seek a democratic socialist society that dismantles sexist and classist hierarchies, that restores ownership and management of work to the base communities of workers themselves, who then create networks of economic and political relationships. Still more, we seek a society built on organic community, in which the process of childbearing, of education, of work, of culture have been integrated to allow both men and women to share child nurturing and homemaking and also creative activity and decision making in the larger society. Still more, we seek an ecological society in which human and non-human ecological systems have been integrated into harmonious and mutually supportive rather than antagonistic relations. It is in the light of this vision that I would like to appreciate Montfort as a man very relevant for our times, a person who has stood with this value of a combination of the masculine and feminine within himself. And the approach to development, the approach to working with people, there are 3 types of approach that our society has practiced so far, in which I would like to make a question about what type of approach are we practicing. In this charity approach, relied on the assumption that riches and wealth are God's blessings. To be kind and charitable is to be a good Christian. Church forms its own, from its dawn, is well known for its works of charity and piety. A clarion call to live well with integrity, the root cause of the problem. We only live at the tip of try to bandage the wound without knowing where lies the root of the malady. In the second of welfare approach, teach man to fish and he will fish for himself. But thousands of our children who are now educated, they were professionally trained. When they go to work, what are they doing? They are doing the offshore jobs for clients who are living in the US. Overnight, our children are working in India through the night to respond to the needs of those people there. A new form of colonization which is taking hold. Is it justice? And the third approach of empowerment. Have we involved ourselves in empowering, in understanding, in analyzing, knowing the root cause of the problem and addressing issues from that angle where people will stand up with dignity and human rights to claim their personhood. This is the spirituality that the UN has advocated in its human rights, in Mulier's Dignitatem. Pope John Paul II has very clearly he has brought out, and the church documents, the CBCI policy, gender policy has very well clearly it has charted out. But how many of the people in our church know that there is a gender policy in the Catholic Church. Why do our priests do not preach about this during Sunday sermons? Is it too painful? So, the time has come. We have to respond in a new manner. Old wines, new wine cannot be put in old wineskins. We need to revamp our way of responding to social reality. I would like to conclude with the story of the eagle. The eagle has a lifespan of 40 years, and if it wants to live for another term, the eagle has to make a very hard decision. The eagle has to go on top of a mountain. It has to peck on the rock to break its beaks, to pull out its talons, the old grown feathers, to renew and to be reborn. It takes about 3-4 months time. When the new beaks are born, the new claws are born, and the new feathers are born, and the eagle can live for another 30 years. It can increase its lifetime for another term. Can we live for another term with a vibrant, with a new way of responding to social reality and recognize women as our partners in mission? Thank you. Most of them are women theologians. It's a very big good news.
May I invite Ms. Mary John to come and show our gratitude to Sister Stella. Thank you. Thank you, Sister Doris, Sister Stella. In short of time, and somebody has threatened me saying that if you don't give time for packing, we will shout. So we will break short our breaks